Welcome to the Cybersecurity Whisper for the week of March 24th. Thanks for joining us. We'll get started with some interesting information on Pokemon. Not sure how many of you remember Pokemon. It seems like it's been at least 6 or 7 years since I played it. It used to be super popular to walk around with your phone and actually get you out of the house to play. It was a super popular game, but apparently it is still pretty popular. And this week, the company did do some proactive password resets after they claimed they detected some hacking attempts against some of their users, and they went ahead and reset those user account passwords. They put it on their website that said, following an attempt to compromise our account system, Pokemon proactively locked the accounts of fans who might have been affected. And they said, look, the account system wasn't compromised. What we did experience and catch was an attempt to log into some of the accounts, and so to protect their customers, they reset some of those passwords. Moving on to the Flipper Zero, which I know it seems like I talk about a lot because it's in the news a lot, and I do love the Flipper Zero. It is a phenomenal penetration testing tool. But in just a few years, it's become, again, so popular that it's surrounded by many myths. You see lots of videos that are kind of fabricated about it. It's no wonder that people in power are trying to make Flipper Zero illegal. And so, as I've talked about, and you probably read in the news, the Canadian government is planning to ban the Flipper Zero as part of their efforts to combat auto theft. And of course, when you talk about things like this, proposals like this are really harmful to security, and they can actually slow down technological progress because they're usually made by politicians, bureaucrats who do not really understand how security works, and they'll do nothing to actually solve the problem, and in this case, the car theft problem. And so if you think about how is this any different than the Raspberry Pi when it first came out, while it's not as portable, it's extremely powerful in terms of compact and in terms of a vulnerability testing device. If you think about the communication protocol between a key fob, these wireless key fobs, and a car, it's bidirectional. Many keyless repeaters that the bad guys use can relay these signals in both directions with a very, very large attack range. Other relay signals are only from the car to the key fob, and so that attack range is limited really just by however far the key fob signal can reach. And these concepts of, it's been many, many years, but there's static codes and rolling codes, and almost everything is converted to a rolling code. But a static code is that fixed set of numbers, across an access control system to grant access. And so every time you push a button, the same set of numbers is being sent. And so, of course, things like a Raspberry Pi can capture those and could replay that and grant you access. But most everyone, including your garage doors and car, remotes, they use a rolling code. That's the set of changing numbers. And when you press a button, it generates a unique code based on a sequence that's known only to the access control system. And so by capturing that code in your Flipper Zero, for example, and playing it back, it's a one-time use. It's not going to work. And so we know that bans can't protect insecure systems. Instead of banning these cybersecurity tools capable of finding the vulnerabilities in the systems, we need to fix the vulnerabilities. And so the cybersecurity industry has long recognized that bans don't fix these insecure systems. They only cause more problems by creating false impression that proper measures have been taken. And so, think about one example would be credit cards. We now have chip and pin and EMV credit cards because of the mag stripe. And so the mag stripe with RAM scraper is so easy to copy that you would think we would do away with it and not even have it on our cards and only use the EMV or the encrypted chip and pin. Well, your car is secretly spying on you and driving your insurance rates up, whether you like it or not. Well, it was revealed this week that drivers of cars manufactured by General Motors and Honda and some other popular brands, some of the drivers said their insurance rates did go up after the companies sent data about their driving behavior to their insurance companies. And so the one gentleman that was quoted in the New York Times said his car insurance went up by about 21% last year after GM's OnStar smart driver system installed in his Chevy Bolt collected information about him and his particular driving habits. And his insurance agent said, well, yeah, it was based on data that they purchased from LexisNexis, which is used to do all the validations in terms of you have your credit reports and other things. LexisNexis holds all that data about who your loans are with and everything. And the report was over a 6-month period. It was a 258-page report. It had information about the start and end times of his trips, the distance driven, speeding, hard braking, sharp accelerations. So remember, when you use your fancy GPS systems in your cars, which we all love, you're usually having to hit agree, and you're agreeing to terms that you have to manually go opt out of if you want to get out of these smart driving type programs. Moving on to Glassdoor, many of you are probably familiar with Glassdoor. When you're looking for a job, you want to read about the culture of your company, see what employees are saying. One of the key benefits of it is it's anonymous. When you upload those reports, when you're writing a review, You can make them totally anonymous. Well, there was a user this week that said that Glassdoor actually went and added her real name and her location to her profile, so it showed up on all of her reviews without her consent. And it all stems because she had opened a case with them to resolve some problem she was having, and so she was emailing their support team back and forth, and without her consent, they added her full name and her email address that she had used with customer support to her user profile, which then showed up by default on all of her comments. And so she said the only way she was able to get that off was to delete her entire Glassdoor account. So just something you might want to check on if you've said some things that you might be concerned with, if someone knew that you were the one associated with those on Glassdoor. Next, let's talk about SafeLock. I worked in the hospitality industry for a number of years, so very familiar with the company called SafeLock. They make pretty much all the hotel doors for any hotel. At least 13,000 different hotels and even some homes worldwide. You're talking about Airbnbs and others. Researchers disclosed vulnerabilities in those locks in late 2022, and they called it unsafe lock. And you're able to easily unlock any door in a hotel or that uses these by forging a pair of key cards, and the equipment needed to create those cards less than a few $100s. And when you exploit the flaw, the first card rewrites the lock's data, so you reprogram the lock, and the second card opens the door. And they reverse engineered the Dormacaba's front desk software. When you go in and you check into the hotel and they tap the card on the programming software to write to it, and so it learns how to spoof a working master key that could open any room on the property. And these forged key cards can be created using any MyFair Classic card that you can buy, and any commercially available tool capable of writing to those cards, such as a Flipper Zero or an NFC capable Android smartphone. So again, something to think about when you're in those hotel rooms. You definitely want to do that inside lock at night to protect yourself and not leave anything of value in there during the day when anyone can actually access the room. Finally, we've talked about this before in this whole remote workforce. Now there's this forum on Reddit called Overemployed, where people say they're bored with their fully remote job, and so they're working 2, 3, in this case, even up to 4 different jobs. This guy made a mistake, and it's all too easy for the little mistakes you make along the way to start adding up and to blow his plan, and they did. And so what happens is he bought a mouse jiggler, which is very common amongst these different employees. If you think about Teams showing your status if you're away or if you're at your computer actively typing. And so there's 2 different kinds of mouse jigglers: the physical one that actually moves your mouse back and forth, or the software that emulates your mouse being moved back and forth. And this particular individual used the software, and his company's IT department was alerted that they had an application installed on his machine called caffeine.exe. So I can only imagine it was a company-owned laptop. And his boss asked him what the purpose was for that software, and he was kind of at a loss for words. And his boss asked him, is this so your computer doesn't fall asleep? And he was busted. And so his boss put him on a performance improvement plan, which is usually the last step before you're being fired. And so he had been having other mistakes as well. Said he was missing stand-up meetings and using the same excuse of having thunderstorms and power outages quite frequently, that his boss also put into that performance plan. So again, for those of you that are managing team members, again, we trust our team members. If they're fully remote, if they're rock stars, if they're getting their job done, kudos. If not, maybe they're working too many jobs, and this is something you might be on the lookout for. Certainly also installing any of that software on your company laptop could cause a virus, and so it's something else that needs to be looked at. Why should those employees have admin rights on their machines, and they shouldn't if they're company owned? All right, with that, I hope you have a great week, and we'll catch you next time.